Them say Asoroku don't follow for Gota, oh. Them say Tinubu don't follow for Gota, oh. Tinubu don't follow for Gota, oh. He want to take it tax to chop off our head, oh. Senate house fall and the criminals, country military fall and the terrorists, injustice, on motor shop forget law for inside court. Changaro Republic at the government. Abubakar Malami don't fall for Gota. Him and EFCC put leg for shit. Them say Sheikh Kukumi don't fall for Gota. Because Donald Trump don't come to Machamo. He go matching Boko boys, matching terrorists. As the government knows the way for kidnapping to stop. I make it don't fall for Gota. They make Nigerians see one die for suffer.
Our coat of many colors must not be torn asunder. That is what our enemies would prefer. Each and every person who benefits from the ruination of Nigeria is an enemy of Nigerians. Usually, they distract us. They use religion, they use ethnicity, they use politics, partisanship. But we're part of the same tapestry, we're part of the same cloth, and we mustn't tear it apart. Yes, I would love to tear apart the iniquitous Nigeria that has held all of us hostage, but I don't want to tear my country apart. I want to tear down the evil system that permits the evil that has overtaken our country. I don't want to tear the fabric apart. No, it's the system. What combines together is the fabric. It's got a coat of many colors, yes, but it becomes a coat only because the fabric was stitched together. It wasn't batik. It's not batik, it's not tie and dye. It's a patchwork of different colors. You have diversity, but it only becomes strength when you find common purpose, when you're all pulling in the same direction. The Nigerian in the northern part of Nigeria must want the rule of law. The Nigerian in the southern part of Nigeria must want the rule of law. Because what ails you, as Mustafa, ails Amechi, the same thing is disturbing Olakunle. Nodu is afflicted by the same. The future must hold a Nigeria that is accountable to law, both by persons and by institutions of states. We are more than them. We are.
Do you trust the British police?
I do. But remember my experience with the police in Nigeria was very negative. And coming to the UK, my first experience with the police was very positive. The police in Nigeria would rob us. So when people say, "Oh, I had this bad experience with the police because I'm black and they're white," I was like, "Well," I remember the police stole my brother's shoes and his watch.
His shoes?
Yeah, they took his shoes and his watch. It's a very poor country, so people do all sorts of things, and giving people a gun is just a license to intimidate. But that's not the bar we should use for British police. Obviously, it should be much higher. But my experience was so positive. When I was burgled, for example, the police were there, very helpful. They eventually caught the person. This is 2004, so 20 years ago. The police did catch criminals, and now we've given them too much to do, in my view. So the police are the first line of defense for everything. And I think that burden makes it a lot harder for them to actually do the basics. And that's another thing that we need to look at.
Let's talk about some of the social issues.
Welcome back to the program. There is still People's Voice and Voice of Television. Sheikh Abubakar Gomi, a Kaduna-based Islamic scholar, claims the Nigerian government is aware of terrorist identities and location. Gomi made this statement during a TV pilot, responding to allegations of interacting with terrorists and advocating on their behalf. Gomi emphasized about his engagement with armed involved security agencies, stated the government knows every terrorist by name and location. I don't go alone. I know police, the military, and other security agents. The cleric has previously advocated for that with armed groups to reduce violence and encourage disarmament. All right, we're now being joined by Chijuki Alexander Orji, public affairs and political analyst. You're welcome, Chijuki.
Yes, thank you for having me. Welcome to my friends.
You know, I told you yesterday, I said we are joining the case today, right? And that was the reason why, because you had so much to say yesterday, and I said, please, don't worry, we'll press for time, but let's bring it here today. So it will just be end-to-end between you and I believe it will be a wonderful, program. Do you want to respond to any of my new stories before we go into this conversation?
Well, let me just touch a bit regarding the kidnappings.
Okay, this one.
It's shamelessly becoming like a norm in Nigeria now. That's one of the criteria or characteristics you must have for an individual, not you, must have to be a politician. First of all, they have to become shameless. And then the second one is that they have to be of no ideology. That means they stand for nothing. What they're after is anywhere religious. Then the third would be in terms of unreliable character. That you cannot rely on anything
I do. But
because they now
remember my experience with the police in Nigeria was very negative. And coming to the UK, my first experience with the police was very positive. The police in Nigeria would rob us. So when people say, "Oh, I had this bad experience with the police because I'm black and they're white," I was like, "Well, I remember the police stole my brother's shoes and his watch."
His shoes?
Yeah, they took his shoes and his watch.
And knowing fully well that power is not just about sitting in a position and use of lottery cards and abusing other people's right of way, but being handed over people's mandate, that is the people electing you or selecting you to serve in a particular position. That means you have the backings of the people. It's like the popular proverb we have in my area that says that any child that the father is standing behind, especially the male, he said, break this door. Without hesitation, he will break it. Why? Because his father is behind him. It's amazing that despite the will of support for these individuals, that they have lost the credibility of giving their own words. In most cases, they even place curses on themselves. Look at the case of Muftuan. I was on the studio when the election was being announced, and he was named, it was announced as a governor. And instantly, the media house that was reviewing the election brought him on board. And in the course of interviewing, looking at the trajectory, and all that he had to go through, the humiliation and the fights, and the people stood by him. Just before his defection, he was swearing and all kinds of things. But he didn't. Look at where he is today. So it's shameful. But again, Nigerians now have realized all the things that Boko election has been saying. That these people have made it clear that it is them against the whole Nigerians. And why I'm so happy is that you don't need to even look far. You can see it creditably well that these are the enemies of Nigeria today. Because none of these individuals have been anywhere at all showcased to have any mercy at the economy or to have any mercy with the continued abuse and destruction of the national values we have as a country. Look at how shameful it is at that come that they want to make the 2027 election. They won't go back for the president. Apart from that, are you now seeing the fact that despite the huge projects of the election, what is the result of people going to the election is as good as people can sit them on the side and say, okay, this fight should continue. But Nigerians must wake up to realize that the only way this change of power and the change and end of this bad governance can happen is through a peaceful revolution. And I'm calling on Nigerians to be awake. These things we're seeing maybe because a few are still having the hopes of being appointed of the minister or whatever. There is nothing working in Nigeria today. And these people have no other of idea of what to do. That is even worse, is most pressing. Look at the situation we have today where fuel is rising. And the government of the day does not deem it fit to address Nigerians and tell Nigerians the way forward of what should be the expectations. What should Nigerians fall back to now? It's so sad. And then these are the same people you expect that minimum wage of 70,000 naira will take home and take care of the families. And we're expecting a just nation. It will not work. How will it not profit the organized crime, syndicates, who would, by this continued destruction of the economy, have more and more people to easily even come, they will come freely to come and sign up. Because you can see that those boys who are perpetrating or being used for these acts are not in any way not looking hungry. Look at the videos that are circulating online of these barbaric animals that are being used by various systems of governance in Nigeria, which we now hear from, you can say from the horse's mouth, because this is one who has been recognized by the Nigerian government as an official negotiator. And what it simply means that he has been a representative of the Nigerian government. And for the fact that he has been a representative of the Nigerian government, including the success awards, so the presume what all the current administration is simply meant that he is now admitting to Nigerians that he's not denying his involvement, but that the government of today is also the major hirer. Those are his employer. So indeed, what the Nigerians waiting to hear, that suddenly miracle will happen and everything has all ended. It's really heartbreaking, and I don't know what will happen to Nigeria today for them to wake up and take the cue to understand that this continued divide, rule, and destroy and kill, which has been the original master plan of this very destructive mindset of people, have no plan for the future of Nigeria, because in most cases they are not even aware and do not even have the knowledge. Listen to an average Nigerian politician of God. Look at what happened in other states. Now we're seeing an individual who's coming to clean up. We pray he continues in the second term, because this has shown that this is like a pattern we have in Nigeria. When they come in the first term, there's always this variety, and at the end of the day, we don't know what happens. We pray there's a consistency, because his predecessor, who has not just been rewarded with an ambassador of Nigeria to Germany, shows, so to speak, shows Nigerians how the whole country can be governed. A man who on a live television acknowledged to the world, not just to Nigerians, that he, as a government, made it a mandatory package. He called it a package for women who take back to get a 500 naira. A 500 naira. Meanwhile, his son was alleged to be driving cars in excess of over 2.3 billion. A young man who has never, for any reason, had to, toil to earn such. And then you can afford to see on a live television that the people whose plots are being subjected by the day, who are being used to borrow money without even seeing the effect of it, that the best you can do is to give the 500 naira allocation for a newborn, for the woman together, for the mothers of the child together, for the child, for the 500 naira. Well, we pray that they will also get this proportions.
The infections. Of course, you had to link it up immediately with the possession of Sheikh Gumi. And let's just take it up from there. I saw in the days, and this particular one, caught my attention. And it says more than 100 Nigerian soldiers have reportedly lost their lives just in the last 2 weeks. And further, families are left with little or no support from the government. Corps member was killed after the 10 million ransom had already been paid. The numbers of deaths keeps rising. Several towns abandoned, yet our government is romancing terrorists. I'm going to read that particular one, from the days, because when we talk about Sheikh Gumi, just like you said, he has been, officially, recognized as the biggest negotiator, that Nigeria can ever produce out of Africa, if I'm allowed to use that word. And when I saw this particular video of that William Party, and I asked, why hasn't the government acted on this information to apprehend, the terrorists? We have Sarah taking the federal government to the ECOWAS court because they're actually pushing that the government have no right to tap into our phones. Now, the government actually has access not only to locations, they know the names, just like what Bumi has said about these terrorists. So, what does this Gumi's statement reveal about the Nigerian government? The knowledge that they actually know the activities of these people, and yet we are leaving them. And we decided to tell the US to also come in to assist us. And it's really confusing here because if you know where these people are, why are you calling other people to help you? Now it is gradually making sense because the NSA man actually said, at the time they kidnapped the schoolgirls, he actually said, oh, that the girls are in good condition. And it raised concern, and more questions from everybody in Nigeria. That when you use the word, oh, the girls are fine, did you go to check them? Are they on clinic? Are they on holiday? When did you go to check on them? It's a question. Does Google's involvement with a security agency imply government approval or publicity? I'd like you to talk about this.
Okay. I'm glad you asked this question, but I want to take it and marry it together by bringing, or reminding Nigerians that they have been truly aware even before this current statements. Shortly after the same kidnapping of the Catholic school, the current spokesperson to the president, in the person of Biden, was on Arise television and the rest of the world that the military were in contact with these organized terrorists and that they know their location of the terrorists. Two words, that they're in talks with these terrorists and that they know the locations. That was from the presidential spokesperson to the president. And he has not come out to denounce or to say those were caught off guard, or in most cases, as they always do when they have exposed the truth, he said they were quoted out of context. In this case, it was his own words that I've just quoted verbatim. Now, outside that, the same NSA, in a visit to the Catholic Archbishop or the leadership of the church, gave his assurances that they were in touch and that the children will be returning home soon. That means that the NSA, which agnostic, told Nigerians several months back that the NSA office had been used as the conduit for paying these organized crimes. Are we now connecting the dots? The NSA has not come out to deny it at any point in time that the NSA office has not been paying these terrorists. Just recently, some individuals that were arrested in Guam or the intersection of between Kwara and Kogi, while they were being interrogated, the video was on circulation. It's not being denounced. With registered rifles from the NSA, quoted in context that these were guns from the NSA's office. That's another. The same set of individuals came up again with defense from the current sitting governor of Kaduna State, who now lashed out to, and when RFI was also there, he was also used to paying the same terms. That they are making these payments as, kind of commitment and ransoms which the same government have been denying to Nigerians and the rest of the world that they have not been paying these organized crime members. Remember, I want to clarify another thing, that the government of the United States was not approached by Nigeria to come. No. As a matter of fact, they have been waiting them from coming. Do you know how many delegations upon delegations were sent to the US to ensure that Donald Trump and his administration never sent an emissary, not even to come and take a look, but not to even intervene? How can the same individuals who say that they are collaborating and working with the US, so that they were provide the necessary or what you requested? Let us know. Why are you in talks with Turkey when the US has publicly that they are ready? And they're not just saying that they're ready, but they have struck some targets in Nigeria, which they're so-called messy, dirty, trying to align themselves, made a complete mockery and a mess by saying that they did to strike. Can you imagine how, I don't know how to use, I don't want to use certain words that are not TV friendly, that you now made the investigation, you now told US to strike the size. Can you imagine what kind of drama is that? Is it that we now lack the equipment or the courage? Now you've been able to gather the ideal information you needed to be able to carry out this set of response. Let's say you have to go and radio the US. Now remember, the Minister of Foreign Affairs said he spoke with the US Secretary of State. Okay? They're not going in Baba were saying talks speak to Donald Trump. And then at the end of the day, we're now hearing, the US struck based on our guidance. Okay? Now remember that just shortly after that incident happened, some rural community members went to recover the remnants of the unexploded explosives.
Yes.
And the Nigerian military, the same military that said that they are the one who gathered intelligence, were working with the US, right? Now US struck while they were after they had dinner, probably snoring in their houses. The US carried the airstrike, they saw it on Twitter, and then the next thing they came on air and were begging they should return this, scraps of the elements. Now, the same people shamelessly are still trying to defend that they are working with. No, the common sense don't know. How is it possible that you can do information gathering? Let's say you're collaborating with US. It means that if you were working with US and the minute US struck, because they struck outside from Nigeria, and you are the persons on ground, the ideal thing would have been that you would have been at that site first. You would have not just been there, you would have even cordoned the environment completely and ensure that everything there, because it's a crime scene, used as an evidence. But there's other idea of to build out and try to this kind of thing. Then just recently, it was the most happened. The current IG went to Haram and was boasting to the current government that is going to reclaim the territories that the Nigerian military.
Yeah, I saw it. Yes, I saw it.
All these state out territories which they have been denied. He now found by that statement he now tells Nigeria that
Please unmute yourself. Please unmute yourself.
oh sorry, I didn't even know I was there. Okay,
At some point,
what I
we
was
actually
saying,
lost our connection. Please go ahead.
okay, what I'm saying is, why is taking this suddenly going to Guam? What is the relationship with Guam? Why is Tunji not going to Borno to go and reclaim the areas that are under the terrorists, these organized crime members that are being housed in certain areas? It is not one. Is it that they're trying to, put the Nigerian police, which should have been in charge of the internal security, to now begin to protect our borders? That means that the militaries have retired. Is that what we're now?
Okay, Chijoke.
Yes, please.
Yes, you've actually, also added to some, backstories to buttress your point, and give clarity as regards to some of the things I asked you. And my main concern here is about the negotiation. If the Nigerian government is actually saying that they are not negotiating, and Nigerians have been asking the question, which happens to be the golden question: how have you been rescuing these people? Is it like whenever you go in to rescue these people, the kidnappers, the bandits, terrorists are still? Because we didn't see you say you disarmed, you held, you killed, you apprehended, you arrested. We've not seen any of that as regards to whenever they want to rescue these people. And we also gathered some footages sometime last year when the leader of one of the bandits decided to get married in the city of Zamfara. And they were all speaking outside. Of course, some of us who could understand, and they also interpreted it in this footage. But they made a call. They said, of course, security personnel are aware that we're coming, so they've actually cleared the way. They came into the town, they did the wedding, and they all drove, back in their, motorbikes back into the, and that particular scenario actually, disturbed us more. The statement of, oh, the security personnel are aware that we're coming. They cleared the way and we've actually come, done our wedding and taken our bride back into the bush and everything is normal. And that's the reason why around that particular axis, from Kaduna to Zamfara, to Katsina, in some part of that area, you would hear them say, "Oh, they want to negotiate. They want to negotiate because they don't have any other, options." And that's the reason why these terrorist gangs are giving them, things to their demands, rather. So I would like you to provide a solution. Talk about terrorism and insecurity in the country. We can actually, understand what has actually caused, this whole situation. But how can the government address this on the underlying, issues to at least reduce this insecurity situation in the country? And do you think that external factors are contributing to Nigeria's security challenges? I'd like to close this thing just 2 minutes so that we can wrap up, please.
Well, the truth is, yes, it's going to be difficult to rule out external forces. This is external forces. They say it is a rat at home that tells you a rat outside or something. It's definitely corroborates what they say. Individuals who are definitely can now tell them enemies of Nigeria. And it is this same people that will probably be expanding what was left. But let's not forget that we keep always failing to address the root cause of the problems. The former president and the immediate past president of Nigeria, who was alleged to have been a part of the people that brought in the truth of these nations, that is the Ortiz, did not at any point in time deny these incidents. I'm not aware. And then all these collaborators that are still in government today have not actually come out today to deny it. So it's a systematic thing. It simply means that what they're trying to do is to force them to just accept this as a way of life. In fact, in one of the statements again, credited to where he said that we should be looking at these guys in a different way. That their mode is basically kidnap and extort, and not to majorly come out to law, which does not degenerated to be killings. So this is not the same Nigerians were getting this was a different part of the world we were referring to, or those that were credited to him. The challenge is that the government has never been able to volunteers. Outside even this situation, I'm not aware in any states where there's no boundary dispute, where there's no land dispute, where there's no other communal disputes. And yet, this is a country where mediators will complete their studies and there is no way to practice. Tell me how many people today are engaged in each state of the federation or at the federal level as mediators, mediating and trying to bring peace alternatively other than the usual court systems.
Okay.
So most cases have lingered for over 200-300 years.
All right, okay.
The political crisis that today we can see has completely forgotten. So the problem is too key to address the situation of taking what it has to address what it needs or what it has as a problem.
All right, thank you so much, Chinjoke. Thank you so much, Chinjoke, for being part of the program today. It's so painful that for press for time, but Nigerian conversation cannot, be totally discussed in just 1 hour because if we were to look at the state of the nation, it's a thing of concern, and we cannot exhaust, the situation that is actually, happening to every Nigerian. But we just keep lending our voice and different solutions from every corner, and wherever we have the opportunity to participate. Thank you so much for being part of the program. Hopefully, I will see you soon. Okay. Thank you for being around yesterday and of course today again. Thank you, and this is how far we can actually go on the program. Yes, we love the world of sport. I like to stay put to enjoy a local coming up next is local romance, and wouldn't want you to miss that. Pacific Champions League, yes, is back today, and they will do it justice to their own competition and
aspect of how these things happen. And Nigerians are not aware. It's either they're not aware or they deliberately do not let us know. So long as things are going on smoothly, Nigerians will not ask questions. Now that this is happening, we're asking the questions. Okay, now let's look at other topics that we also intend to look into this evening. Afeni Ferry is also warning Mr. Peter Obi to protect himself, that if he dies, nothing will happen. Speaking on what happened in a Edo State with Monday Abebolo. So, for example, Fabowoda knew the man during a recent interview, and that's the director of research at the Pan-Yoruba social political group Afeni Ferry, Akin Fabowoda. He urged the former presidential candidate, Mr. Peter Obi, to protect himself amid rising political violence in the country. Fabowoda also criticized Edo State Governor Monday Okpebholo, accusing him of doing the bidding of former Governor Adams Oshomole. According to him, Okpebholo has a village mentality and was allegedly installed in office by Oshomole. Fabowoda emphasized that Governor Okpebholo was carrying out the political bidding of Oshomole in a manner similar to the influence of late Ibadan strongman Lamidi Adedibu, who wielded in Oyo State politics in the past. Okay, we'll look into that in the course of the conversation this evening. Now, let's look at the allegations regarding a 1993 U.S. drug-related case, which involves the president, which has resurfaced prominently during the 2023 Nigerian presidential election cycle to challenge his eligibility, but that did not prevent him from contesting or taking office. Now, what is the mainstay of the case? Nigerian courts, including the Presidential Election Petition Court, dismissed a petition seeking his disqualification, ruling that the forfeiture was a civil matter, not a criminal conviction. So, what are the details? For the forfeiture, in 1993, the United States District Court in Illinois ordered a forfeiture of $460,000 from accounts linked to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu as part of a settlement in a case investigating proceeds of narcotics, trafficking, and money laundering. Now, while the investigation linked funds in his accounts to a heroin distribution ring, Tinubu was never formally indicted, convicted of a crime in the United States. Tinubu entered a stipulated settlement with the U.S. government to release the remaining funds, which included a forfeiture of $460,000. In 2003, when Tinubu was governor of Lagos State, a letter from the U.S. consulate in Nigeria, in response to an inquiry from the Nigerian Police Force, stated that a record check of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, National Crime Information Center, was negative for any crime or any criminal arrest records or convictions. Now, in 2023, Candidates, including Mr. Peter Obi and Atiku Abubakar, then used the documents from the 1993 case as grounds to disqualify Tinubu from the 2023 presidential election, arguing he violated Nigerian electoral laws regarding dishonesty and criminality. The tribunal in its ruling, that is the Presidential Election Petition Court, dismissed these challenges. The court ruled that the forfeiture was a civil case concerning assets rather than a criminal conviction against a person. The Supreme Court later dismissed a further suit from a 2019 of frivolous abuse of the judicial process. Now, a US-based activist, Aaron Greenspan, pursued the Freedom of Information Act through a lawsuit resulted in a 2024-2025 court order for the FBI and the DEA to release more records regarding the 1990s investigation. The Nigerian presidency dismissed renewed interest in the records, stating the 1993 case is decades old and that there is nothing new to reveal. However, in summary, the court has ordered that all the documents, that is the DEA, that all the documents which indict Tinubu from I think January till June this year, the FBI and DEA should release all of those records to Aaron Greenspan. However, we've not heard any response from the FBI or the DEA. So Nigerians are making statements that these would prevent the president from contesting in 2027. And on this program, we want to find out how true that is because of the recent electoral acts whereby certificates, forgery, or whatever would not be in any means or form of disqualification for anyone who wants to contest elections in Nigeria, and that the tribunal may not be the one to seek for it. It will be taken in a different court. So we're going to look into all of this in the course of the conversation. Mr. Fabio, good evening and thank you for joining us today. How are you? Welcome. So, like I told you, I said, one thing would impede me. Now, this whole situation with petrol is affecting everything, transportation, and now there is no electricity. Like literally, we are roasting. And I was already telling you today that I felt extremely lethargic without what the weather was. So I want to ask you a question, please. Why is Dangote buying crude from the Nigerian government by international rating?
This is the arrangement that has been in place from day one.
I don't think we understood it.
Yeah, a lot of Nigerians in the business, and I remember in the days it's been Dangote's assumption of production when public commentators like me go on air to explain what having a local refinery meant. I remember I kept telling people Dangote having a local refinery, especially a private one, will have no bearing on pricing of the product because the crude oil that Dangote was going to be using, even if it was buying 100% of its crude from Nigeria, was going to be sold to him by the Nigerian government at international crude oil prices.
Why?
President Mohamed Buhari's government had said so before this administration started. And the justification then was that you can only sell at international market prices because that is the price of our crude. And the intention is to put the subsidies out 100%.
Okay, I'm sorry, I want to get something straight. I would understand selling to our international counterparts or partners at the international rate. While sell to Nigerians in that same price, because if Dangote buys at an international rate, obviously they have to make their own profit. So why can't they sell lesser to Nigerians and then sell at a higher rate to others?
The explanation is actually very simple. I'm not saying I agree, but from an economic standpoint, from a commercial standpoint,
okay,
if we produce 1.5 million barrels of crude, if international crude price is $100 per barrel, for example, if you sell out of that 1.5 million, right, at lower than the $100 per barrel, Nigeria is making a loss, an opportunity loss. You are actually losing revenue that you would have gotten. So if instead of selling at $100 per barrel to Dangote, we decide that Shebi is processing this for local consumption by Nigerian citizens. Let us sell to him at $60 per barrel.
Okay.
It would mean that for the quantity that Dangote buys from Nigeria, we are losing $40 per barrel because we would have sold that same quantity on the international market at $100 per barrel. You get, so it's that Nigeria has decided to, the Nigerian government has looked at Nigerians and did a we are looking away. They are looking away, they don't send us. They're basically saying, look, the fiscal fortunes, the fiscal balancing, and all of that of the government is more important than the welfare of the people. That's the meaning of this. The reason I say that. So I understand the argument, but I disagree with it completely. Because I have always maintained that, look, Nigeria cannot be the producer of something that is beneath our feet. We've got, 30, how many million barrels reserve that we have under our feet, right? It's ours, and we're producing, we're extracting it.
Yeah.
The production cost per barrel of crude oil remains, I think only experts in that industry can tell you clearly. But my understanding is that it's a fraction of the selling price. So if the international crude prices falls to $30 per barrel today, Nigeria still makes a profit. Let that sink in. If the international price of crude falls to $30 per barrel today, Nigeria still makes a profit. The profit will be much less, but we'll make a profit. So the question is, why can Nigeria not have a mechanism that provides crude for local consumption at a discount to the market price? We are not saying that Nigeria should take a loss. We're saying it is high time. So this is my position, and I think that is something that we need to echo. Unfortunately, a lot of my friends and colleagues, that understand these things don't agree with me. They tell me that I'm being unrealistic. Look, if you really think about this thing, it is actually in our national economic interest to do this thing I'm saying. Because what that does is that it protects Nigerian economy from external shocks. As we speak today now, look, crude oil price got to $112 to the barrel yesterday. I've been monitoring it on a daily basis because of what I do. $112 per barrel. And the expectation
Is that it
can hit 150. It might not, because now, based on what we're hearing from President Trump, there is a possibility of de-escalation over the next few weeks. But if that doesn't happen, we could hit $150 per barrel. So as we speak now, it's at 84. It has come down because of some of the things that Trump said yesterday.
So $1,300.
And the price of that has also come down. Dangote announced a 100 naira reduction as at today from the price yesterday. Yesterday the entry was 1,175. Today they released another price,
like 1,165 or 160.
That
was yesterday.
No.
1,175 was yesterday.
1,075. 1075.
That's a reduction today now.
So they've taken 100 naira off, and then 1,050 for Lagos for postal. They said postal supply is 1,050. So there's a slight reduction because between April yesterday and today, the international price of food has kind of come down a bit. From that 110 range, we're down to 84, and we hit 80 this morning, and then it's back to 84.
Let me come down to this.
Yeah.
Nigeria has over 1,481 operational oil wells, with total field developments, including inactive ones. We still have oil wells that are inactive, exceeding 300. So those ones that are inactive exceed 300. But right now, 1,481 operational oil wells. The country boasts around 258 oil fields, mainly located in the Niger Delta, which produces up to 2 million barrels per day. Now it's even more than that. Nigeria has increased its production per day. These wells are primarily situated in the coastal Niger Delta basin. Now the total wells. Reports indicate over 1,481. Field data, there are over 258 oil fields, according to some reports, while others note 323 developed fields, including natural gas and condensates. Production is the majority of these wells are in the Niger Delta, and between 2022 and late 2025, the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission reported 306 new development wells drilled. Some of these wells are now the federal government sold to some private individuals. These wells are exporting petrol and making their own money. They're not accountable to the national largesse, all right, to the national treasury. Then there are some of the oil wells that have been dedicated to repay loans that were borrowed from the previous administration. I don't know if they've covered that up. Then the rest, obviously, is for the Nigerian government. If that is the case, please, I want to ask, why is Dangote Refinery the supposed refinery that we're relying on now? Between 2023 and now, if President Tinubu has said we need to build our own refinery, the government, NNPCL becomes the charge. We change the structure of NNPC, whereby while Dangote is refining, the Nigerian government is refining. When we come to a situation like this, we don't even have to feel anything of what is happening internationally or outside the shores of Nigeria. Why has that thought not come to the fore?
This is
the Nigerian government is not investing in one finance. And I think that the Nigerian government does not have the structures to manage businesses of that complexity successfully. When I say structures,
you can imagine somebody of your person speaking intelligently like this, and you're telling me that they cannot find persons with such intellectual capacity, experience. Specifically, we have a lot of engineers who have studied outside and monitored how things are done. They cannot. Okay, so please kindly explain.
I'm saying that we don't have the structures. In other words, for you to run businesses successfully in that sector, accountability and transparency is critical. It's not just important, it's critical. If you do not have visibility for every drop of oil, crude oil that you take in, and every drop of refined products that goes out, because of the number, the huge variety of products that come out of refining process, the theft, the corruption, the graft will kill the business, and that's what happened to Nigerian owned refineries. So, government actually, I do not support the idea that Nigeria should be a refinery. I think
I don't support it because they don't have the structures.
They will run it down, they will steal everything, they will steal up right and run it down. We have the evidence of the street to do that. So, what I would have expected that the government of President Buhari, and now 3 years into Tinubu's administration, to have done was to have, look, how much did Dangote spend and how long did it take him? $20 billion US, and that $20 billion US was not at once. And it took him, he said he started this journey around 2013. This is 2020, and mind you, 3 to 4 years during that period was spent trying to get land. So the actual construction period was about 5 years.
And I know that the land thing itself, he was cheated. They collected
all those things are well documented. So the actual construction period can be as short as 3 years. If you build a smaller one, and Dangote's own took this one because it's building a massive, the largest in the world, single train. So if you do modular refineries, maybe you make about 4 or 5 trains in one particular site, it can actually be as quickly built as 2 years. So what I would have expected, sorry, Esther, is that the government should have provided very strong investment incentives to drag in private capital to build at least 2 additional refineries to compete with Dangote over the last 4 or 5 years.
I thought we had a water Smith and Boko and Boko. Are those ones non-existent?
We're not seeing.
Or are those just foreign refineries drilling our oil, refining and exporting?
No. We have quite a number of privately owned refinery projects of different production capacities that are currently at various stages of completion. But it's a mystery. Yes, I would not pretend to know why these things have not seen the light of day. So right now we're all kind of waiting, hoping that BUA will also come on stream. They say that it will take another 2 years, will probably come on stream sometime in 2028, so that we don't depend on that again. But I think it's important that the government understand that one, crude oil refining is a critical strategic national security sector that the government cannot lead to
vagaries of the open market, right? And actually, our economic interest, it's very critical that the government understand that the economic performance of the country is intricately and inextricably for now tied to what happens to the price of petrol at the pump. And therefore, you cannot limit it to international prices. Imagine the fallacy. My mind, no, I know that Dangote has been buying food at international prices, but to now discover that he actually does not buy directly from the Nigerian government, but that he still buys through marketers, the traffickers of this world and the victors of this world, that he will still go through the normal channels as if he's buying Western Texas, the WTI from the US, he's buying Nigerian crude through little men. What is wrong with us in this country? Because if you cut that off, if you find the mechanism where Dangote can buy direct from the NNPC, exactly, you cut off at least 2 or 3 million men, and that saving can go to Nigerians who cheaper petrol. Then we have a fundamental problem with regards to the way government people relate with the welfare question as far as Nigerians are concerned. It's not putting on this is very important.
When I was going to work today, the evening, because you depress me further.
Yeah.
You understand? You would depress me. He says nothing is working. There's no structure. Nothing is happening. This one, that one. And I was like, oh no, but the president is trying some initiative. And they looked at me like, madam, are you in this country? Do you understand? How can you speak like that? He says you wouldn't understand. But obviously he's running a business and he knows what he's going through. And I'm wondering, he's complaining, and to be honest with you, don't know jobs. To know somebody. In fact, you need to be in the circle of these guys for you to have job links and job opportunities. For real, there's a network. It's not like the jobs are not there. You just need to know somebody that is in that network.
It's not just jobs, Esther. That's what makes it tragic. It's one thing. If you can't find a job, why can't you just go, become creative and start your own business? You can't find capital. To get capital in this country is I won't say it's impossible, but it's difficult. It's damn difficult. You have to be connected. You have to be connected. For your business ideas to find the money it requires to scale, you need to be connected. Come on, how can this country and economy develop in this type of system? So it's very, very unfortunate. I just want to appeal. I want to use your platform to appeal to the government that no country, anywhere in the world, this is fact. No country that works, no economy that runs and runs properly doesn't need subsidy entirely. My friends in the economy, my fellow economists and financial experts need to understand and please project this concept that no economy can run without subsidies. I agree that you should not be paying subsidies into the hands of private people in cash, because we've seen the corruption, how that has been riddled with corruption. But for God's sake, we've got a refinery. Why can we not forgo $20? Why can't we forgo 10% or 20% of the potential revenue we get from selling something that God has given us to subsidize and make this product cheap for Nigerians? Not just because you want to be a nice and welfareist government, but because when you do that, you increase the purchasing power in the pocket of Nigerians, which then translates into consumption.
The president told you,
which then translates into investment
and reduce the purchasing power. So you don't necessarily buy what you buy the luxury, what you need.
We've got to move away from that because that was political rhetoric.
It's not political rhetoric because it's exactly what is happening now.
Look, Esther, the point I'm making is that the government and the president has got to find a way to protect our economy from external shocks when crude oil moves. The way that we can do that is to stop selling crude oil to Dangote, number one, from middlemen, number two, at international prices. That we should agree the price that we will call our stabilization price, external shock delinking and stabilization price for crude oil to our local refineries. Don't say it's for Dangote, so that somebody will not say, oh, you are favoring Dangote. For anybody that is refining locally, this is the mechanism and structure by which the price of the crude will be determined. And that formula will be used at any point in time to ensure that there is always a buffer to protect Nigerians and the Nigerian economy in case there are external shocks in the international market. Because commodity, we don't control the price,
Obviously.
but we control what we get from the ground and we control the price that we place on it.
For a country that is heavily reliant on imports.
That it costs so many things. So this is very critical. I would like to appeal to the government to take a look at this and revisit the pricing mechanism for Dangote crude stock.
Let me agree with what you said, whereby it's not wrong to subsidize certain things. But now the federal government has told us that there's no longer petrol subsidy. I don't think there's any more subsidy when it comes to electricity, right? I think there's no subsidy for electricity.
There still is, but
There still
they
is.
still want to remove all of that.
There still is.
So
I don't
the
think that
tariffs are going up.
I don't think that people will believe you when you make that statement.
But the tariffs for one day will still go up. That's what we've been told.
All right. Now, just take a listen to this. For the past 2 years, since the Tinubu government told us fuel subsidies gone, right? Why are we not feeling the impact of fuel subsidies gone? The money that they remove for subsidy, we know at least now we've heard that they blocked that channel. Bola in an interview said the president already told Nigerians they will feel the pain. Why should Nigerians feel the pain and not the elites?
Man, this question you're asking, the answer is blowing in the wind. We all know the answer. The politicians know the answer. We Nigerians know the answer. The real question is, what are you going to do about it?
So we are talking about it because it's not making sense anymore. You removed subsidy. You told us that because there are certain persons taking advantage of it, we diverted the field, and the Nigerian government keeps on incurring debt to service this, right? We agree. So why are we not feeling the impact of subsidy removal? The idea was you increase the allocation of the governors, right?
Yeah.
That's one part of it, isn't it? And then you're going to set up other avenues. And the avenues means you create job opportunities with that money, investment opportunities with that money. Give individuals grants and loans to set up their businesses. We're not seeing that.
There have been a couple of things that have gotten better as a result of subsidy removal.
Okay.
The problem that I have with those things is that they don't translate to the ordinary Nigerian in terms of an improvement in the standard of living.
Can you mention those things?
So, for example, government finances is better. It looks better. If you hear that as a foreign investor, you can hear that a particular country, its government is spending 110% of its revenues to service its debt obligations. You will not come because that government is bankrupt. So, which means that they will not be able to settle their obligations. So you won't come, you won't bring your investment to that country because the country will collapse at any time. So now we've gone from that, and that's what we were just about 2.5 years ago. We got into the point where we can say it's still debatable. The government apologists will tell you, it's not about 35-40% of the total revenue that we're using to service obligation. But in truth, it's probably somewhere around 75, maybe 70 to 75%, which is far better than the 110%, but far worse than what it should be. So now that improvement has resulted in some foreign portfolio investors being comfortable enough, knowing that the government is liquid enough to bring short-term capital into the stock market, into the money market, which has resulted in capital inflows that has boosted our foreign reserves, which has helped our exchange rate. Now, the exchange rate going down has helped things like rice, oil, and vegetable oil, some other grains. The prices have come down. We're seeing these prices come down in the last 6-7 months to 1 year. So those improvements are there. But the issue for me is that those things you really it's touch and feel. You can't really say this is it. Because even though those prices have gone down, things are still expensive. We must not forget that. Things are still very expensive and a lot of people are still struggling. So for me, the issue is that when you take subsidies out like this, you should have a clear plan how whatever you say in quote is going to be used to invest in things that will improve the quality of life of Nigerians and their standard of living. That this government has failed. Listen, the money that we're giving to the government, the federal government is not willing to hold them accountable. So they give them the additional revenues through FAC allocations every month, and then they tell Nigerians they will not be pointing hand. The president has become a fantastic point and key. He will just point and say, go and meet the governors. No, it shouldn't be that way. The money you are giving them is our money. It's Nigeria's money and you are our president. So if you give them that money, you hold them accountable on our behalf. Buhari did that. There was a period when Buhari just came. I mean, it's amazing that the Buhari that we all insulted and dragged and said he was the worst president, we're now referring to him to things that he did that were right. Buhari gave a list of criteria that government must meet, state governments must meet, before federal government will give them additional loans and support. Okay. Why can't the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu do that with regards to subsidies? Give them some sort of a laundry list of criteria, benchmarks, HDI numbers, indices, indicators that you must meet before this fund will be released to you. And that maybe after a year, on an annual basis, there's some sort of a review mechanism to ask for accountability as to what you have done with that extra money. So none of these things have happened. We just say subsidy is gone. The money we say we're giving it to governors. Some are going to local government. Some is with the federal government. Nobody can really see what we're saying. It takes somebody like me and some of my colleagues who understand how the macroeconomy works to know that, okay, there has been some gains as a result. But the average Nigerian is not really doing it. It's not good enough. I think that the president and his team, especially people like Yemi Kaproso, who obviously very intelligent, what they're doing, now they have also in the
president has said that he should be acknowledged.
So we have this very intelligent egghead. For God's sake, they need to come up with a framework. It's too late anyway because it's 1 year to the end of their term. So if they win the next election, then we'll have this conversation.
The president is confident he will win, and we're seeing the appointments he's making in that regard. For electricity, I think we set up a team to look into it. I was wondering, you have a minister of power, and the president now had to intervene in the power situation.
You have a minister of power.
I think Mr. Adilabo.
Who is that?
He's collecting salaries.
Oh, he's a minister of power. Sorry.
Yes.
I thought he's a minister of
he's the minister of power right now, but the president has to intervene
he's one of the most incompetent ministers of power.
But the president still left him there, did not ask him to leave. This is incompetency we're talking about.
The president is more interested in politics than in governance.
In what political way will Adilabo be relevant to him?
It's on the ground. Rigging mechanism and machinery for the next election. You think the president is going to eliminate anybody? Why was Adilabo selected as president? Was it not because he added some sort of capital to the president's victory and therefore he was rewarded? So that's something that he did that was rewarded for him. The president is going to do it again. So instead of sacking him, because it's obvious to extremely you know that lady that I'm so sorry, I apologize. She's brilliant.
Alright.
I mean, she could have been moved there as minister of power and let's see what she can do.
Your freedom of utterance, Esther, can we ask Mr. Show me? He's not showing me. Your name is not showing me. Show me the PDP guy. Well, is it PDP or APC? Thereabouts. So he says, I should ask you that. What about the portion of crude meant for local consumption? It says, please kindly ask Mr. Shopito about the portion of crude meant for local consumption.
Excellent question, because we have a 425,000 barrels per day.
Yes.
That's the whole DCA. I've forgotten what that acronym stands for. It's basically a portion of your total production that has been defeated in local consumption. It's 425,000 barrels per day. So that's there. Now, unfortunately, that volume does not meet Dangote's requirement, and we're not even supplying him right to that. Dangote has a capacity of about 650,000 barrels per day. Nigeria supplies about 30% of that. So if you do your math, 30% of 650 is just roughly somewhere around 200,000 barrels per day that Nigeria is giving to Dangote. 200 to 50. And the 425 that is designated by law for local consumption. So one point that the gentleman has raised is a very critical point, because that particular value is the one that I'm saying we need to have different pricing for, so that will serve as a subsidy import for Nigerians, such that we can buy petrol at the pump for much lower than what was happening before. We were buying at 820 naira, you know, per liter in some filling stations before this market started. I think we achieved 500 naira per liter,
What
maybe
was
400 or
the math
450
that's going on in the
per
middle is, do you think it will boost Nigeria's revenue?
No,
Is
of
Nigeria
course,
going to profit from
of course,
this?
Nigeria will, it's a windfall. You know, in fact, that's a part of the concern that we also need to raise because, look, the budget benchmark is $69, $64 per barrel. Now we've done almost double that in 1 week period. That is a lot of money, right? So, somebody needs to give account of that. Yes, somebody needs to give account of that. You know, in the days of the military, we had the excess account.
Yes.
And we also had that on our Obasanjo, you know, Jonathan Obasanjo. So, depending on how long this lasts, it's a lot of people that will come to Nigeria. And unfortunately, you see, my own problem is that that money for him to benefit and see it.
All right. So now, the elections are very close, and Nigerians are asking questions of what happened with the closest changes to the Electoral Act. Now, the president's drug-related 1993 issue came to the fore. We heard, I think, just last month, where the U.S. court has actually asked the FBI and the DEA to ensure that all the documents requested by Aaron Greenspan were released with immediate effect, giving them a 6-month time span of between January till June test, and that there should be no retraction whatsoever. As the Freedom of Information Act as prescribed. So it obviously means Aaron Greenspan, the owner of Plain Sight, has won in that case. Now, these allegations concerning the president's 1993 U.S. drug-related case involving the president, obviously, in fact, it was David Hussein, then obviously Atiku Abubakar that used his means to pursue that case. Now, the president forfeited $460,000 from accounts linked to him, and as part of settlement in a case investigating proceeds of narcotics trafficking and money laundering. But there is no criminal conviction in regards to the president. Investigation linked to funds in his account to this heroin distribution ring. The president was formally indicted, charged, or convicted of the crime in the US. There is no.
Them say Asoroku don't follow for Gotao. Them say Tinubu don't follow for Gotao. Tinubu don't follow for Gotao. They want to take it, that's the chop off our head. Senate House fall and the criminals, country military fall and the terrorists, injustice, Omoto shop forget law for inside court. Changaro Republic at the government. Abubakar Malami don't fall for Gotao. Him and GFCC put leg for shit. Them say Sheikh Kukumi don't fall for Gotao. Because Donald Trump don't come to Machamo. He go matching Boko boys, matching terrorists. As the government knows a big way for kidnapping to stop. INEC don't fall for Gotao. They make Nigerians see one die for suffer.